Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show is recorded on October the 24th, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and joining me, as always, my best turtle friend.
Oh my. Caffeine Rage?
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games we played this week. The Neogaf CEO is accused of sexual assault. The Escapist fires all paid staff, save Yahtzee. Wolfenstein 2 doesn't have multiplayer because it would dilute the storytelling. Over 3 times as many video game projects fail than succeed on Kickstarter. Destiny 2's population tracker is gone because it was used to spread false narratives. Twitch adds loot boxes for temporary emotes. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rach. How are you?
Suffering from allergies.
I feel you.
Well, I wish you'd warm up your hands. At least mine are seasonal.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah, it used to be when I was a kid. I would get almost flu-like in the spring and autumn for about a week each. And nowadays it's just a bit of a scratchy throat and, waking up feeling blah. But
right.
A little bit of coffee and a little bit of Benadryl.
Right. Mine are especially bad in the spring. The fall can go either way. We've had so far a warm and wet fall. So there have been many things blooming past when they should be. So I've had worse allergies this fall than in the last couple of years.
The climate is changing or something.
One might think, but isn't that supposed to be a Chinese hoax?
Yeah, let's check with the EPA on that. Oh, look at that. That all the info is gone, and they fired all their scientists.
Well, that makes me sad. I laughed at first and almost spewed coffee everywhere. I don't
how's
two
that
coffee
different?
incidents. Yeah, before the recording, folks, I was making coffee because I was tired, and I accidentally spilled it every fucking where in the kitchen, including on my feet and my hand, my leg. It was terrible. Not only did I waste coffee, but I burned myself. On the bright side, though, I woke up.
Yeah, they'll wake you up. Nothing like second-degree burns to wake up a person, right?
The best part of waking up
is
That was probably way funnier than it should have been, but that was good. I can handle that. Not the coffee, obviously, but the jokes,
or at least
the goofs,
or at least not the drinking of the coffee.
Yeah, can handle the goofs though. Anyways, what were we doing? Podcasting.
Yeah, that thing we tend to do every so often.
That thing we do roughly once a week, most of the time.
At least in theory.
Was I talking to you the other night when I bought my new mug?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I was. It's when we were talking about one of our news topics, which this would be a great segue to that. Too bad I'm so shit at segues.
No, you're not shit at segues. You're shit at not covering them.
All this talk of coffees making me think about my new glorious PC Master Race mug that I ordered the other day. I'll take a picture and put it on Twitter when it gets here.
Yeah, see, I just have my Kerbal mug that I still use for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
But, the best part of the coffee? Explosions!
Explosions of caffeine in your brain.
Oh, you don't want to have caffeine explode too much because, then that becomes the new baseline. You need to drink more and more of it. And then you have to have a detox day and, that's sleepy day.
Man, today should be my sleepy day. When it rains, it pours. October has been crazy around the clinic. This week
who got fired
so far.
This week?
Oh, no one got fired. We just have a lot of new clients with, all emergency stuff. I think everybody's, crazy. They've all gone crazy for October. All them there Satan worshippers are coming out. They just need Jesus in their life. I heard that from from someone the other day. I facepalmed very hard.
And then you spilled your coffee.
Yeah, that feeling passed forward all the way to tonight. That's what really caused me to spill my coffee.
It was
just
the
like
ripple
residual.
effect.
I just started thinking about that, and I was like, oh, shit. And I just spilled coffee everywhere. Seemed like the right thing to do at the time, but now I'm having second thoughts.
Just like having this podcast in general.
I never have second thoughts about this podcast. It's one of the highlights of my week.
Boy, your week must really suck then.
You have no idea.
Oh.
Anyways, let's go talk about things that don't suck, I think. Which are the games that we played this week?
Yeah, I guess I should go first. And I'm going to be talking about Warframe again. Yes, one of those rare weeks I actually talk about the same game twice, because I usually avoid this because it's not nearly as interesting to talk about the same game twice. But I was able to get the last part of the quest chain that I needed to unlock the second half of this update that just came out. Which a big thanks to Death Saber for helping me out with this, by the way. Yeah, after getting the ability that... I don't want to talk too much about the actual storyline in case you care about it, because there is a couple interesting twists on it. But essentially completing, I would say, 3 of the main cinematic and kind of sarcasm, non-sarcasm quotes, because these quests have a lot of cutscenes in it, and that's why they're considered the cinematic quests, not that they run at 24 FPS or 30 FPS. But getting these quests done unlocks a 5th ability for your Warframe, which is across all your Warframes. And this also enables you to survive the night on the plains of Echelon. And once you get that ability, the plains are, at least for the most part, pretty easy to survive in, and it feels kind of a bullshit progression check, to be perfectly honest, just with how easy it is.
Okay.
With the exception of the raid boss that stomps around, which I haven't beat yet. Did you ever play World of Warcraft? World of Warcraft in the Burning Crusade era.
Yeah, Burning Crusade was when I first picked it up.
Okay, remember Fell Reaver?
Yeah.
Okay, think essentially a big raid-esque enemy. This isn't raid-esque per se, but it's a lot tougher and very difficult to beat solo, at least at this current time. That walks around like Fell Reaver.
Okay.
And if you attack them and you aren't set up for it, it's pretty much a guaranteed death. Outside of that, I'm pretty much able to survive the night without a problem. And it felt a little bit disheartening that it's that simple. It's literally just unlocking that extra ability. And also, I did a little bit more diving onto the mining and the fishing side of things, so the resource collection. And resource collection, well, the fishing, it turns into a little bit of an annoyance, to be perfectly honest, because different fish types, well, for those who don't remember, there's spear fishing in the game, which I absolutely love the idea of, but they complicated it in a way that I really don't appreciate, in that different fish are more vulnerable to different types of spears, so you have to swap in between them if you're hunting for different fish. And to equip them, you have to use up your gear slots, which you only have so many of. So you're having to either particularly target certain fish or equip more than one of the fishing spears. And that's a little much to me. I would have much rather seen the spears be one upgrading to the next, particularly since the next one should have been just a complete upgrade, but it isn't. If you get my drift.
Right. Okay.
And, well, one thing that I did like is that they do have fishing dye, which allows you to fish more easily. And that's not required to be put on the gear slots, which, why couldn't that be the, how it goes for everything else, you know?
Okay.
If you're using the fishing spears and you have dye in your inventory, you bring up the gear menu and you're able to use it there. It should have been like that for the spheres. And the mining side of things, I found out that the high-end lasers does in fact show the mineable ores on the minimap, but also that I ignored the distance tracker. So there is technically a visual indicator of, how far away you are from mining nodes if you're listening to podcasts or something, but it's not nearly as useful as the audio cues, which is irritating.
Yeah, you complained about those last week.
Yeah, I did a little bit more research and a little bit more toying around with it. Yes, you can use the distance indicator, and the distance indicator only kicks in at 15 meters anyway. So yes, you could use that to kind of zero in, but it's a lot slower. So why would you do that, right?
Right.
And also, once I unlocked the fifth ability, it also kind of made the third tier of bounties a lot easier. Just being able to do certain things and having a little bit more choice in what I could do. It's still a very slow grind on the experience or the rep standing, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. It's just one of those things that it felt like a hurdle that really shouldn't be there, or a more binary hurdle than it really should have been. I think it should have made things easier, yes, but not impossible. Because without that fifth ability, the enemies during the night is literally unkillable. They go immune.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was a little bit annoyed with it. Granted, you can team up with someone else that has that ability. Like, if I brought you in, I'd be able to finish off things while you do the first half of the damage. But it's still, a little bit more cumbersome than it really should have been. But it really comes down to how Warframe is really designed. They put in basic ideas and they refine them. And sometimes completely negating old systems. And I'm not sure if that's a great way of game development for the long run. Granted, Warframe does have a very strong community, but I'm a little concerned about bringing in new players. If they keep refining things like this and making things a little bit more obtuse.
Yeah. The new player experience for Warframe has got to be a nightmare, even before this.
Yeah.
There's just like 18,000 things that have piled on each other over the years. And all of the things are good, but when you come in and look at it for the first time, you're like, what the hell is this mess?
Yeah, Warframe is one of those games that I watched Total Biscuit's video on it just to see what he was doing, and he didn't exactly show it off all that well because he brought in a lot weaker stuff than he really should have. Because he heard it was a new player area, then he chose higher level stuff to fight against because it's a variable level area. You're able to dictate the levels of enemies you're fighting by choosing various bounties. Or if you go into free roam, it's pretty low to mid level. So it's not that big a deal. But bounties will change the levels of things. But he was talking about just how going into it, it's a very real mess, and it's more of a wiki game, almost roguelite-esque, where you're having to look up a lot of systems. Because there's no really good tutorials. I think their next major update, for one, they need to streamline some things, and two, they need to redo their tutorial system. Because typically what games that do massive redos like this for various systems, because they completely changed one system from the last time I played. I didn't play much past when they changed the star map. So that's another system that they pretty much completely redone since I played a lot. They never really explain what is going on all that well. So they really need a new player experience improvement. And tutorials, lack of tutorials is a killer for games. I mean, let's just pick one almost at random. How about Lawbreakers? That's a game that could have done a lot better. But everything I've heard about that game talked about how cumbersome it was because they didn't explain a fucking thing. And for an arena shooter like that, people aren't going to go look up. For an RPG or MMO, depending on how you want to classify Warframe, people will have the patience to go look things up. But for arena shooters, you won't. So it's kind of running into the same problem, or could run into the same problem that Lawbreakers will, or had. Speak while I do that. Warframe may run into the same problem that Lawbreakers did, where their new player experience is literally non-existent. And it's only going to attract people that are going to try to sit down and figure things out. Granted, it does have one thing going for it that Lawbreakers didn't, in that you're not really focused on PvP. Yes, Warframe does have a PvP system, but since it's PvE, taking time to learn things and not being top tier, doing the perfectly optimal strategies, you're not going to be that far behind. You could still, put around to do your own thing. But I'm just a little concerned about Warframe's long-term future if they, bleed off players.
Right. Because if they can't bring in new ones, or if they bring in new ones slower than they are losing them, then...
I mean, I realize I'm talking about
sustainable.
I'm talking about bringing new players whenever they're the fourth place on Steam right now. But it's all about sustaining, not just your top tier. Your peak.
Yeah,
it's where that plateau ends up. Any questions? Any comments?
So far, no.
Are you awake over there? Do you need to get more coffee?
Nope, I'm good. I'm already halfway through my cup of coffee. A bathroom break will be in order after the game section.
Oh my. Well, I guess you only borrow coffee.
Yeah, I don't have any questions right now. I still need to play it, but I just didn't get a chance this week.
Yeah. Someone was Mr. Turtle yesterday.
I needed my turtle time yesterday. My in-laws were here, for those of you who haven't paid attention on Twitter or whatever. And we spent all weekend working because they were willing to help us do house project and also play with our kid. So Katie and I were like, we have so much shit we can get done this weekend. So we worked all weekend and then hung out with them and did stuff, which is cool. I like my in-laws, but I was very tired and all socialed out yesterday. So, I mean, Monday nights I usually am pretty chill and just hang out by myself anyways, but I locked myself in the office and brought in drinks and snacks and just sat in here for like 6 hours yesterday.
Wearing nothing but a pair of socks.
Indeed. It was great.
All right. Well, how about something that is completely unrelated to you? FoxyLand. This was a game I picked up on Keymailer and I played a little bit of to possibly do a Sunday sampler on, but ended up just recording a little bit of Warframe footage and being lazy. And FoxyLand is kind of that middle of the road platformer that, no, it's not bad, but no, it's not good either. It feels like a platformer out of the 1990s for PC. And I mean that as both a compliment and a curse. It's very, very stiff on its controls. It just feels ancient, but it still has, that kind of bullshit 3-star system going on that I'm not sure if this is a mobile port. I don't think it is. Actually, I didn't check on that because I'm not seeing... Oh, no, wait. It is a mobile port. That does possibly explain a few things on how stiff the controls are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't look into that. But there's a thing going around with indie platformers in general, is that for one, with Steam Direct opening up the floodgates, there's just a million of them. And that's not much of an exaggeration at these points, is it?
No, you're only...
How every time on Co-Optional, they talk about, there's 100 games coming out this week. We don't know what to do.
Yeah. 100 or more. It's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, it is a cheap game. It's, both game design sense and monetary sense. It's under $3. So, you are getting what you pay for in this case. It doesn't feel that great. But at the same time, it's not terrible. That's probably the nicest thing I'd say about it is that it's not terrible.
Yeah. It's not terrible. High praise. High praise.
Trying to think of anything else that really stood out about it. Oh, and it's also feels like it's going to be exceptionally short. I was through, I would say, a third or more of the levels in 15, 20 minutes. So, if you want a game that you're going to blaze through and, feel great about, but not have achievements for it. Oh, actually, there are achievements. I forgot about that. According to this, there's 25, how the hell does this work? Complete level 26 has a higher percentage chance than complete level 25. I guess a level skip.
Maybe?
But 26 levels. That's not a lot when they're all beatable in about a minute and a half.
It says complete level 25 on 3 stars and level 26 on 3 stars. So maybe level 26 is a little bit easier to get 3 stars on than 25.
Maybe. Oh, there's level 27. So it looks like 27 levels. There's not a lot of levels, let's put it that way. There's a reason why this is a cheap game.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you can get through them in like a minute or two apiece.
Yeah, and I will say this about FoxyLand is that it has one of the most bullshit knockback vulnerability cycles I've ever seen in a platformer. You get knocked back a good third of the screen, and you're invulnerable during the knockback, and about a half a second once you regain control. And if you're hit again, you get to repeat the cycle over again. And you're given 3 hits, but if you don't land on something that you could, not take damage on again, or land somewhere that you won't take damage on again, you're going to, get hit again. And I got hit by a flying dart. It knocked me back into a pit, got hit there, and once I was able to regain control again, I was able to double jump my way out of it, but it was a close thing,
Yeah.
It's very much bullshit fun mechanics.
Alrighty.
All right, so how about something that isn't bullshit for my third game?
Yay, no bullshit.
Yeah, well, there is bullshit, but it's not as much bullshit. The Blackwell Unbound, the second game of the Blackwell. What is the term for a series that has 5 games in it?
A series with 5. That'd be no. I don't know. Because 3 is a trilogy, 4 is a quadrilogy.
Pentilogy?
5.
Penta?
Maybe?
Anyway, in the Blackwell series, I went back to this actually a couple weeks ago. I got a little over halfway through it, and I put it down because I was running out of time for the podcast. Didn't pick it up last week, so I finished it for this week. And I have to say that this is a lot better than the first one in the series. The first one, well, for those who don't know, or don't recall the Blackwell game that I talked about last time, this is about essentially a paranormal detective who goes around solving how ghosts died to let them pass on to the afterlife. In this one, you're playing as the aunt of the protagonist in the first game, so it's a prequel of the first game. Figure that one out. Lauren Blackwell, which honestly I would have expected this to be the first one in the series, just timeline-wise. Or, it makes a lot more sense timeline-wise, and rework the second one into a better second game of a series. Mostly because the puzzle elements on this one make a lot more sense. The opening puzzle for the first game, you have to walk this dog around a lamppost in order to get the attention of another person.
Okay.
And it's very obtuse on doing that. On this one, it's a lot more actual detective work. Putting together little pieces of information here and there to figure out where you're going. yes, it requires a lot more thinking, a lot more, a little bit of trial and error since this is a game and you're not really punished for guessing wrong. But it's a lot more cohesive. That said, they didn't use the profits from the first game to buy a fucking pop filter. So there's still that issue. A lot of audio issues, actually. Especially with your spirit guide in the game, Joey Malone. He has a very deep voice and a very powerful voice. And they did not audio mix him correctly, so his microphone is constantly peaking. And it garbles, and whenever he has to yell, and there's a couple times in the game that he does, it's very, very ear rapey. I think is the proper term for that.
Okay.
And I hope the third game they decide to fix that, because overall I've really enjoyed these games. It's just very, very tough to recommend them flat out with all the audio issues. That, and it is very old game design. I mean, this one came out in 2012, but honestly, it feels like a LucasArts game. You know, that sort of old school point and click. Granted, no real game overs. And this one, I didn't even talk about the storyline of this one. This one has two independent cases that you have to face that eventually get tied into one final little micro case. I don't want to say too much in case somebody really goes out to play it, but I will say that it is a very good story overall, at least so far. I'm just wondering, how things are going to tie together, because this is a series that I think is going to have an overarching storyline eventually, and that the 5 games in the series you could almost consider episodes, even though they are larger than modern episodic game lengths. I mean, this one took me, according to Steam, about 6 hours to beat, and I would say probably closer to 4 or 5, to be perfectly honest. Overall, not too bad. If they could just fix the fucking audio issues. Oh, and I do have to give major props for the music in the game, because it is really good. There's a couple of sections that are musical based. I don't want to give too much more away than that. Very good music there. Just, why can't they buy a fucking pop filter?
Because that's like $8 they don't want to spend on Amazon Rage.
It's just, wow. I want to build a time machine just to go back and give them a fucking pop filter at this point.
There.
Well, that,
It'll
and also right. Buy a few stocks and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like quite a few stocks. And then, maybe do a little assassination. Or 2, or 10. Quite a few tragedies you could stop with a time machine.
Yeah, but then you kind of run into the whole paradox thing.
Nah.
And
fuck it.
Maybe there's a whole thing about that whole fixed point of time that Doctor Who keeps talking about. That's the reason why they can't go back and kill Hitler. Sure, they could shove him in the closet, but, Hitler supposedly was in the closet anyway.
Touche. By the way, you were right with pentology.
Oh, how about that? I was right.
So good job. I looked it up. Okie dokie. Well, now it's my turn to do something than sit here and drink coffee and occasionally make a statement to move the conversation along. So I played.
So you're getting me to shut the fuck up. Got it.
So I played 2 games this week that weren't like ones that I've talked about previously. The first is Frisky Business.
Oh my.
Frisky Business is a cartoon booby light dating sim.
Okay, I have to ask, since I did look
novel.
At this game whenever I saw you were playing it.
Uh-huh.
Did you run the uncensored patch?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Well, I had to make sure you were feeling okay.
Yeah, I did both just to see how titillating it was without it. And I mean, it's
So there were tits. Got it.
There are definitely tits. There's a lot of out of proportion tits.
In other words,
large.
tits that look like they got bee stings?
Yeah, something like that. Giant watermelons with bee stings on them.
Huge tracts of land.
But, so yeah, it's... If you just look at it, you go, oh, this looks like a booby visual novel. And you could totally play it that way, but there's actually a simple but interesting detective story hidden in this game. So the premise is that you are Falco Frisk, a private investigator who something happened to him and he got kicked off the police force.
So you're saying that he's a private dick?
Yes, he is a private dick. But he got kicked off the police force, so now he's putting his investigative skills to use, running a PI firm.
You know, I'm not sure if I would trust a policeman named Frisk.
They make a couple of really bad jokes in there about his name being Frisk.
I would have been disappointed otherwise.
So there are a couple of cases that you take on in the game. The first one is really, really short. And then the other case is the rest of the game. And there's a few different things that you can do. You can treat it just like a booby visual novel game, and then you get to the end and it will kick your ass because you didn't take the game seriously and just tried to see all the tits. Or you can treat it seriously and play it like a real game, and it's got a little investigation in there, and you can do some evidencing and some CSI type shit, as the game puts it.
Also, not actual signs or crime scene investigation, CSI shit.
Yeah. That's like one of the things that you can do. It's like, what do you want to do today? And it's like, you can text this person or call that person or go see whoever. And it's like, go to the office and do CSI shit. So, but if you do that, if you do your CSI shit and you treat the case seriously, you can solve the case, and not get your ass kicked. So it's really short. I played through it, twice. The first time it took me an hour. The second time it took me like 30 minutes. I was basically making most of the same choices, cause I fucked up and got myself killed. Oh, spoiler.
You didn't CSI shit enough then.
I didn't do enough CSI shit, so I went back and I basically made roughly the same choices and just chose to take it more seriously. And I got a different ending. I still didn't solve the case, because I don't know what I did. I must have fucked something up, but I still didn't solve the case, but I didn't die, so that was good. But yeah, it's got a number of different outcomes, and like just looking at the screenshots, I can tell there's some stuff that I missed, because there are alternative paths, which I did not take. And all of the achievements are based around banging the girls, except for the one where you solve the case. So there's quite a few different girls that you can bang. There's the 3 girls that live in like the college house, which is where most of the main case takes place. And then there's like this lady it has cat ears.
Of course.
I'm not sure if they're actual cat ears or if she's just wearing like a cat ear thing on her head.
Headband?
Yeah. Then there's a waitress at, what was that place called? Melons with a Z? Yeah. You know what it is.
I'm sure it's an upstanding family restaurant. Then
there's the witch lady from the costume shop. But there's like several locations. Haha. There's several locations that I didn't even go to. There's also the cop, the lady cop. I don't know if you can bang her or not. I don't think so, but I'm not convinced that you can't. And then you have your assistant, who honestly I want to bang him.
Only if she starts yelling, "Stop resisting."
But then you have an assistant. His name's Charlie, and he's like a stereotypical anime type dude. Like looks more like one visually, and dresses like one, and he's like super smart and awkward around girls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can treat him and a couple of other characters that are with you throughout the entire story there's a few different ways you can treat them, which give you different dialogue and can give you different outcomes on things. Like Charlie is super smart but socially awkward, and you can be like really nice and supportive and be like, hey, he's smarter than me, I should ask him for help or encourage him to do good. Or you can be like sort of like just an asshole and make fun of him for being a nerd.
Steal his kidney.
And then he fucks off halfway through, and you're like, well, I guess I shouldn't have been so mean to him. That was when I died. I was mean to him.
You know, the visual novel area of Steam, even though, yes, this is a booby game, the booby games, assuming that they haven't gone, full titillation, can actually be somewhat decent. And are a good kind of gateway drug into the more serious visual novels.
Yeah, I think this would be a really good starter visual novel. You can play through it in about an hour. There are definitely multiple runs and playthroughs. There's some actual gameplay elements to it, so you can get some different stuff out of it, but it's not super in-depth, like, oh my god, I have to remember this character's 8 hours worth of backstory to answer this question correctly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not great, but I was honestly just expecting it to be like, haha, this is going to be like another Sakura game where I can, like, make jokes about it. And it actually turned out to be, like, a half-decent little game. Like, it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I actually did play a little bit of a Sakura game this week. It's one of the roguelite ones. Didn't care for it.
Yeah. I will say, it's got a few jump scares that are, like, very easily, like, telegraphed. If you're actually looking at the screen, you're gonna go, oh, they're about to do a jump scare. Which kind of takes away from the scariness of it. It's got a scary clown, like you can see that in the screenshots. Like that's the bad guy. So I didn't like
John
that
Wayne
because
Gacy?
I don't. Yeah, I didn't like that because I don't like clowns, as you all know. But it was like very much telegraphing the jump scares, so I wasn't quite so put off by that. Plus, the boobs helped. Boobs definitely helped.
What about the boobs on the clown?
Unfortunately, the clown doesn't have boobs.
You'd feel conflicted otherwise, right?
I would feel oddly afraid and aroused at the same time.
I have such a confused boner.
The art for this game is actually pretty fantastic, particularly the backgrounds. There's a lot of detail in those backgrounds that can give you clues for certain scenes about what's going to happen. I was really impressed. The art style for this game overall is good.
Not sure what I think about the actual character sprites, because they are very flat, it feels like.
Yeah.
For the most part. I like that. I'm talking about how they're flat, and then suddenly I get the screenshot of the blonde and the blue bikini. For the most part. Click. Oh.
That's not flat. Definitely not flat.
But you know what I mean? There's a fair amount of distinction between them, between the different parts of the body, but at the same time, it feels a little cartoony, which is kind of the point, I guess. But it doesn't feel like it's the same art style as the background. I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's different. The backgrounds are certainly better. If you want to take a look at the screenshot of the like the clown amusement park deal.
Yeah, I was looking at that just now.
There's actually several different ones of this background as you play through this scene, and you can see the guy like creeping up behind you in the scenery as the background changes, like subtly between scenes. Mm-hmm. Like, so there's some pretty, I mean, you can't see it in this one, but he shows up like first in the doorway, like underneath where it says Clown's Kingdom, and then he shows up in like, I don't know what that thing is to the left of Clown's Kingdom with like the witch thing on top. It says Clown something, but whatever. He moves around as the scene transitions. So that's just like nice little details like that you know you would expect out of maybe a higher quality game, but not something that costs $5 on Steam.
I mean, that's definitely not bad.
Yeah. So I was surprised. I've got to beat it. I still haven't beat it.
Yeah, like I said, that's probably the big thing is that the sprites kind of pop out a little much.
Yeah.
It's like they have two different artists.
They might. They're already talking about making a sequel to this game or another game like it, so. Especially if they're cheap. Like, this feels kind of like...
It's in the sweet spot of pricing, I think. I don't think it would make a lot more sense if it was a lot higher price.
Yeah, I was gonna say this feels a lot like your cheap novel, like your sort of trashy romance novel or sci-fi novel or something like that you pick up like in the bargain bin or in the cheap section on Amazon, and you read it and you're like, wow, the person who writes this, if they keep their career going, are gonna be like huge one day. Because it's got a lot of promise, it's got a lot of spit and polish on it, but it's advertised as like this schlocky thing and sold at like a really good, cheap price.
Well, I'm glad the developer has gotten off the whole "there's poop in my soup."
Yeah, there's poop in my soup is not good.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised it's the same developer.
Yeah, I was too.
Because I was looking at this and it's like, why does that developer name seem familiar? Oh. But I think I see your next visual novel on the Steam page for this. More like this.
Coming out on top?
Yep. That seems like that seems like the perfect one for you.
It's on my wish list.
I'm not seeing it on your wish list.
Oh, you're right. It's not. I've seen this before though. Huh. Add to wish list. It's good. We're good. Alrighty. Next game on my list, Frontline Tactics. Frontline Tactics is a free-to-play, really shitty turn-based strategy game. I have no idea how or where this came from. I definitely didn't buy it. But I have all of the DLC for this game, which is like a bunch of camo packs and a bunch of like premium currency for this game. So I was like going through my games. Like, I've installed this and played it before. Like, I played it when I was on a trip, 2-3 years ago at this point.
Maybe you bought it while you were drunk.
No, I definitely haven't bought it, because I would have, like, when I sobered up, would have seen that I'd spent $24 on DLC and premium currency for this terrible game and been like, what the hell was I thinking?
And then put a lock on the liquor cabinet.
Yeah.
And give Katie the key.
But, I mean, it's not... The only thing I can figure is that maybe this game at one point was a paid game or part of a bundle, and I bought that, and then, like, the bundle just included, like, all the DLC or whatever. That's all I can figure. Because I have bought a few random bundles here and there to get, like, a kajillion games for $1. And I could see this being included in one of those bundles. Because it's not very good. I mean, it feels very much like, and it very well may be, I've never looked into this actually, a mobile port. And it's super free to play, filled with microtransactions, takes forever to get enough currency to upgrade your soldiers' weapons and gear and stuff, and the difficulty ramps up pretty quickly to insane levels after the first dozen or so missions. The only part of the game that's any good at all, in my opinion, is the multiplayer mode, which you can play asynchronous with players when the multiplayer servers are running. It's not using Steam's multiplayer stuff, so sometimes they're working and sometimes they're not, which is sad.
Looks like this is on Apple iOS.
Okay, yep.
Does that explain a few things?
That explains a lot of things. I mean, it's okay if you have like a really shitty potato PC and you want to play a turn-based strategy game.
And don't want to load up Frozen Synapse?
Yeah. You don't want to buy Frozen Synapse? Or is Frozen Synapse free?
Frozen Synapse is actually still a $25 game, but you get two copies of it. So,
yeah, if you don't have a copy of that, you don't want to buy a copy. I mean, this game runs at like 700 FPS on my laptop, so I'm pretty sure you're fine if you've got a PC from like the last decade. So it's just not very good. Your soldiers are locked into one class, which basically limits them to one thing. So it's like, oh, I have a pistol, and the pistols are just shitty. Or I have a knife, and the knife is worse than the pistol. Like, basically your whole squad revolves around protect the sniper, protect the guy with the machine gun.
I'm helping.
You got a medic. The medic just has a med kit, which is useful, but if he winds up being the last guy left alive, you might as well just restart because he doesn't have any weapons.
Wait. Why would the medic go in without at least a handgun?
Your guess is as good as mine, buddy, but he doesn't have
maybe
one.
That's too high-tech shit for, on an Android and Apple game. Looks like there was a couple of people that wanted it on Android. Not sure why.
Eventually, you can unlock a second. They're called class specialties, which allows you to have equip a gun to your medic, but they take so much time and money and effort
medic gets
to unlock
a second med kit.
That would be funny, but in like a bad way. Yeah, I mean it's eh. If you really don't have anything better, I mean, sure, go for it. It might be pretty good, though, if you're playing it on mobile. I mean, games just need to be played on the right platform. It would probably be pretty serviceable as a mobile turn-based strategy game.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem is that you're going in this expecting a PC level. Yes, we're getting into the PC Master Race thing. And you don't even have your mug to hold up. But there's a certain expectation going into a game, especially a strategy game, on PC versus going into it on mobile.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the problem here is that you're going into it expecting a lot more out of this game than what it really offers. Maybe because it was built with iOS in mind, it was ported to Steam later. I'm not sure on the release dates. I didn't look into that. I just saw, oh, look, there's the Apple logo. Well, that explains a few things.
Oh, excuse me. Also, this game is quite old, actually. Looks like it was released in 2012, so it's 5 years old.
Maybe that's why the multiplayer servers are only up half the time. The hamster that runs the servers is getting a little old. It has to take a nap every so often.
Every once in a while, one of them dies.
Yeah, and it falls off the wheel and clogs up the wheels down below it.
Yeah, so it's not very good. If you're looking for something free to play, or maybe if you have an iOS device, then go for it. But otherwise, yeah, just play XCOM. It's better.
XCOM, Frozen Synapse. Should I get the list?
I mean, you could if you really wanted to, I guess, but you don't really need to.
I mean, those are the two ones that I could really think of off the top of my head. An older Civ game. Granted, we're getting into 4X strategy instead of more turn-based strategy.
Right.
Trying to think of anything else just off the top of my head. That's the problem is that there's too many games.
Too many games, not enough time. But yeah, those are the games that I played this week. Aside from, World of Warships and Factorio
I'm sailing.
And I'm sailing. Yeah, I'm going to have more things to say about World of Warships in a couple of weeks, but I'm really trying to figure out some of the things that they've done before I make a few complaints.
Uh-oh.
Thankfully, it doesn't have to do with the business model. It just mostly has to do with game balancing issues. I'm going, what the fuck are you guys doing with this?
Well, the fact that I'm actually decent with the battleships, that tells you there's something wrong with the game balancing.
Well, it's not even that. They've made some pretty huge changes to the meta because of some of the things that they've introduced, but they've not gone back and fixed the earlier stuff to make it more balanced. So some things are just completely broken and useless at this point.
Oh, great. And that's going to be a real problem with World of Warships because it has a linear progression system.
Yep.
Or multiple linear progression systems, I should say, because not even countries, just ship lines are linear.
Yep.
That's such a terrible, terrible, terrible leveling system.
Also, their matchmaking is broken at Tier 5.
Oh, great.
Tier 2, 3, 4, peachy. Tier 6, fine. Tier 5, what the fuck are you thinking?
What, they keep getting Tier 7 ships?
Yeah. Yeah, I get put with tier 7 ships all the time. Because I've got 3 tier 5 ships from the British and French line. And I get matched with tier 7 ships all the time.
Yeah, and there's quite the power jump from one tier to the next, let alone 2 tiers.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to keep it tiers 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9. Or
even just go
10.
Tier 1 and 2. 2 is matched with 1, 2, and 3. The one above it and one below it.
Yeah. But see, you do that.
Do you think there may be a problem with just the population of Tier 5?
I don't know. I mean, Tier 5 is one of the highest populated areas because it's like right there. Tier 5 and 6 are right there where you can get lots of, like your earning potential compared to your loss is the greatest. You can quickly train captains to put on other ships. Or, it's like that's the sweet spot for gameplay. And then you start really getting into the meta when you get to like tier 7 and 8. And then below that,
do you think they may be swapping it around to try to prop up the other tiers?
Maybe. But it's horribly unbalanced if you happen to be the tier 5 in there. Because, I mean, you're just fucked.
Well, that encourages you to buy more doubloons to be able to convert your free XP into the free XP pool to be able to bypass it. See? Perfect.
Yeah, I got a shitload of free XP without having to spend any of my doubloons. I got an XP crate, and then one of the missions that I did gave me a good chunk of free XP. I got like 60,000 free XP yesterday when I was playing.
Wow.
So I skipped a whole tier for the British cruisers because I don't like the British cruiser. They don't have high explosive shells, and I don't know why.
Too busy. It requires too much room. They rather have that extra curry of tea.
I guess.
No, that's where all the crumpets are.
The British cruisers so far have all been basically big destroyers. They get a little bit of an HP boost to bring them closer in line with other cruisers, but they have paper armor. And because they're cruisers, they don't get the no citadels.
They have teabag armor.
Teabag armor. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know. I don't like them. They're terrible. You can't fire high explosive either, and they have 5-inch guns, so you can't shoot through the armor of anything except destroyers. But because they're armor-piercing rounds, they go completely through they're useless. And the torpedoes' range is too short. I don't understand the British cruisers. British battleships are amazing. They're like the new king of battleships at lower tiers. But their cruisers are awful.
That's all we gotta say about that.
Looky there, I wound up talking about World of Warships for a few minutes anyways. You want me to talk about Factorio too? Same old. There.
So moving swiftly along. Easy there, yep. Trump.
Moving swiftly along to the elevator because I've downed all of this coffee and some water. So I need a quick break. And we're back, and moving on to our first news topic of the day. Neogaf's CEO is accused of sexual assault.
Well, their owner, not it may be different. So just want to be perfectly clear on that one.
Oh, I said when I said CEO earlier, you said yeah.
Well, why do you listen to me?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why do I listen to you?
This has been just a real clusterfuck of an article, to be perfectly honest. Well, I should say news story, because Neogaf actually shut down for ages. For, what was it, 2 or 3 days? Following this, and before that, all their mod team was heavily trying to suppress this story on their forums. Well, I guess we should say what Neogaf actually is first, shouldn't we?
That's probably a good idea.
How about that? Having a good idea for once. UGAF is essentially one of the leading message boards in the gaming industry, where there's a lot of both industry insiders and fans coming together to talk about video games. And they've been pushing a lot heavier on, I guess I should say, the liberal side of political arguments. I think that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah, I think so.
To the sort of the extreme end of things. And I have to say, a lot of what I'm going to say is not me personally visiting there, because I avoided Neogaf because of some of the horror stories of just people being outright banned for not even being dicks, but just, having minor disagreements or not falling into the echo chamber, I guess would be the proper way to describe Neogaf's views of things. So to see this come out is not surprising, but at the same time, can we go with the ironic?
Yeah, I think so, since they do seem to have a much more liberal agenda, social justice warrior presentation.
If not full-blown SJW, close to it. Yeah.
So I think irony fits.
Yeah, I really should say that SJWs, that's something that we're probably going to have to talk about before too long as a general topic, because they're an extreme for a lot of things that I kind of agree with, but damn, did they go too far?
Yeah. I never really went to Neogaf all that much.
Me either. This is more looking outside at the dumpster fire, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. This is, I was going to say not to get too far away from gaming, but we do that all the time. It just feels like whenever these sorts of things happen, they come in like big groups, because there was the whole Weinstein deal, and they're back on it again with Trump's sexual assaults, and now here we are with this one, and there's probably some others that I don't know about or
I think it actually does come in waves, just that, people that have these grievances, true or not, I have no idea. I'm not saying that this is false. I'm not saying this is true. I honestly don't know. But there's been allegations in the past with this guy as well. So that's been suppressed by a lot of the more liberal side of the gaming culture. Polygon. Sorry. Had a little bit of something in my throat there. But it's just a really slimy thing overall. And the reason why we see this in waves really is, seeing people feel more empowered to call out things that happen to them because they aren't alone in it. They see themselves as not alone whenever they see stuff about Weinstein, for example, or seeing people stand up against Trump, to use the two examples that you said. So, it's not an isolated thing that this is happening at the same time as those, complete dumpster fires as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But they're handling this not all that well. I mean, perfectly honestly.
No. That was the owner who made that forum post, right? Or that statement? Or was that one of the mods?
No, that is the owner. Well, they're obfuscating the mods behind a mod bot. That's one of the things. And there's a lot of accusations of the mod suppressing accusations against the owner. So, the fact that they're kind of, just hiding themselves behind, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain is a little damning. Granted, a lot of their mods did up and leave, but who knows how many are back because they're hiding behind the mod bot now.
Yeah. It seems a lot of the replies to this statement as well are very positive. Like, basically, hey, Neogaf's going to be back to the way it was before. That's great. But I suppose the site could survive. I don't know. Maybe there's like a really strong corner of the internet that I don't realize that like loves Neogaf. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people that go there, like
Yeah, I guess we should.
the site's fans, but
Well, the accusation, or at least the one that was kind of the tipping point, because, like I said, there's been other accusations against him before, is that he made advances in the point of, at least according to the woman that is making it, he got into a shower with her naked while they were. Where did they say it was? I think it's in the article, but it's just, what the hell?
Yeah. Naked showers with your partner are great. Naked showers with people who are not your partner when you have not received permission to do them, not so good.
Yeah. Just what the hell is going on? Let's. Should we read the state of Neogaf and respond to it?
Sure. Let me go back to that one.
Yeah, this is actually a fairly long post, and it'll be a nice filler because there's not a lot to talk about here outside of the general atmosphere of Neogaf and kind of how they've turned themselves. It's one of those things that they've turned themselves into an us versus them, with themselves feeling like they're on the right side of things all the time. And I think that may be why there's this entire thread of just, woohoo, the guys back online.
Yeah.
It'd be great if you dive deeper into this thread, you start seeing, people starting to not be all that happy, or, seeing them pointing out, but.
Yeah. So do you want me to read it,
well,
or do you want to
read a bit of it and I'll take over?
Okay, it says, "Hi, an allegation of sexual An allegation of sexual misconduct has been made against me by an ex. It's not true. The individual making this accusation isn't credible. The story doesn't reconcile logically with the facts, and there's plenty of evidence and witnesses to corroborate that. It will be a process. All allegations of nature are serious, of course. I first got word of it on Wednesday when a screenshot of a Facebook post was handed to Vote, V-O-A-T.
Yeah, that's essentially a alternate Reddit.
I immediately talked with my mod team about the content of the screenshot and clarified that it was baseless, and explained some of the details concerning my former association with her, and tried to ensure any concerns from the team were addressed fully and transparently to everyone's satisfaction. On Thursday, I heard that she had deleted the accusation from Facebook and wasn't entirely sure how to proceed from there or how this would play out in the public space at that point. Then Friday morning, the screenshot made its way to Neogaf and chaos ensued. I was in the process of writing a statement that entire day to address formally what? This is just wrote poorly. I was in the process of writing a statement the entire day to formally address the allegation, but the community had erupted in a flash that morning. While the moderation team was trying to restore the peace, accusations and threats concerning the screenshot started shifting to them as well as by association with me, and I was asked by my team to do something to fix things and get the heat off of all of them at least. I was beyond exhausted by that point, though stretched too thin at the time since the posts had first appeared, and seeing unprecedented events unfold on Neogaf, I was slow and weak. I failed to handle it quickly enough and let the team down before I could finish a statement and get it out there. Understandably, some mods hit their emotional limit, expressed concerns about the community coming after them, and decided to leave. A few people resigned, and many more quickly followed for similar reasons, citing stress and harassment. The site started breaking under load spikes, leading to the first resignations too, and then flatlined altogether, so issuing a statement at the time on Neogaf itself became impossible. For the time being, and my intentions shifted towards the moderation team's future.
Okay, so he said that he was working on a statement, but there's more than just Neogaf to get a statement out there. I mean, to be perfectly honest, there's such a thing called Twitter.
Also, I don't understand why it would take so long. Like, the initial statement should be, if he's claiming it's false, the initial statement should be, these allegations are false, At this time, I'm preparing a larger statement to explain how or why they are false. Please stand by for that. Otherwise, everyone else, I don't know, calm down or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool
just
your
make
tits.
a really short statement saying this is false. I am preparing a more thorough statement to explain why, which will be released at a later time. But for now, it's not true.
Which this kind of gels with a lot of the accusations I've heard in the past that he'll just rely on the mod team to really suppress things and, just let things cool down and just ban anyone that disconsents. And it looks like it didn't work that time.
Yeah, this was something big enough that turned the majority of, if not the entirety of, the community onto the mod team and himself.
Okay, so anything else, or should we continue on with me reading?
No, continue.
Since that whole mess lasting through Monday morning through Saturday, before we formally went off line for maintenance and repair and restructure, we've just been trying to figure out the best course of action for Neogaf going forward. As all the stories began being published by various outlets, I issued some comments to the press since everything coming out was proving to be sensationalized, opportunistic, and unprofessional. Fuck you. Sorry. Since we're being unprofessional, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I've read some of these articles. Hell, Boogie talking about his time at Neogaf. That's not unprofessional. I mean, have you really? It just sounds like he's mudslinging to try to take a lot of heat off himself, you know?
Yeah.
We've all become increasingly stressed and weary this year in ways even I'm not accustomed to by now. Oh, you poor thing.
I mean, I can kind of sympathize with that statement because I think I know what he's talking about.
Well, considering Neogaf's political leaning, I definitely understand it. But really? In discussions on heated news, political issues, and social issues on off-topic site of such, on the off-topic side of the site has become such areas that no one is wanting to moderate in the open for fear of backlash or general exposure to the inevitable toxicity. I've gone in there myself to take such a heat since it's very much my responsibility to do so before anyone else's. But there's very little headway, mostly just more anger and resentment and a lot of bans. Well, you could say that again. If anything I've seen is true. I don't think this is necessarily reflects on our community, more the tone of the entire internet this year with regards to heated issues. Fuck you? Sorry. Any response to that? It seems like he's trying to make it a lot about himself here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't have any major response to that. I just kind of was shaking my head while you were reading. So just like...
we can't see that.
I guess my response is just like, dude, just not necessarily get over, but find a way to deal with it.
Build a bridge and get the fuck over it. That's all going to inform the way forward for Neogaf as we focus on what the main goals are supposed to be for the site. The mod team will talk about more specifics on that will entail below. One last thing, the Neogaf mod team is here for this community, all of you. Well, except the ones we disagree with. Oh, sorry. I'm editorializing again, aren't I? You have no obligations to respect me or believe anything I say about my social. Speak while I do it. It doesn't help that this is a little bit, it needs an editing pass, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's several mistakes in here that I'm just a little bit better at reading over than you are. Although it caught me out a couple of times.
You have no obligations to respect me or believe anything I say about my personal life, one way or another. But if you're going to be here and participate in Neogaf, respect the mod team by following the rules and behaving. The team is diminished at the moment, and the folks who stuck around care very much about the community and its future. Be considerate of them. That's non-negotiable. Thanks!
You said that a little peppy. There's no exclamation mark. I think it would just be, thanks.
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 Oh, yeah, it does seem like he makes it very much about himself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. What a mess that is, huh?
Yep. I don't expect Neogaf to disappear after this, but I'm not sure I expect them to carry on.
There's a certain tendency once you get past a certain point on the political spectrum on either side. This isn't just on the more liberal side of things, that they are very easy to turn on themselves. And I think that's what happened here, at least partly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Caused a disintegration of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all comes down really to how much they're willing to forgive and forget, because that's really the big thing. And also just how much they could kind of control this in the future. Prevent this from coming up in the first place. Because they are trying to refocus so that there's not as much off-topic discussion. Which, isn't such a bad thing. At least at the base of it. But for the reason why they're doing it, just trying to suppress and control. Yeah, I stay away from Neogaf.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to start going to Neogaf anytime soon. Haven't in the past, probably won't in the future.
All right, well, thanks.
Yep, thanks. Bye. Okie dokie.
Yeah, and remember, that took up 3 days to write that statement.
Yep.
I mean, that's a statement
3 whole days.
That's a statement that looks like it was banged down in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, 5 even.
Well,
with all the grammatical issues and spelling errors. And I am not good at grammar. I am poor at sentence structure, particularly when it's written.
That's poor, P-O-U-R.
But there are many, many errors in there that I would have noticed.
Yeah, there's some just things that kind of trip me up. Mostly the words.
Yep. Okie dokie. Well, are you ready to move on to our other website having issues?
Yeah, how about the other side of the political coin?
Yeah, the Escapist fires most of its paid staff, save for Yahtzee.
Why are you trying to save Yahtzee? He still has a job.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, they're going volunteer basis, which, good luck. You'll need it.
The Escapist is a site that, well, both of us used to go to.
Yeah.
But I don't anymore. Some of my favorite, what are now YouTubers and things, came from the Escapist, like Jim Sterling, Movie Bob. Although Movie Bob is a lot less relevant, he just never got as big as the other ones. Plus, he has a tendency to.
He was kind of heavy.
He still is. Plus, he has a tendency to get in trouble for being a bit
dumbass,
overly liberal, a bit overly stupid with his liberalism.
Pushing
sometimes
close
he makes
to
some
SJW.
good points. Yeah, he puts his foot in his mouth a lot, I guess is the best way to describe how Movie Bob can be.
Oh, so that's how he got so fat. He ate himself.
But he does have some good points every now and then, and I do like his style of film review. But
yeah, the Escapist has really suffered I shouldn't say a lot, totally from Talent Train. And that's a lot due to just issues with payment. And I don't think that they had monetary issues. They just, they pulled the Trump side of things of not wanting to pay.
Yeah, I've heard several creators who have spoken out against that, actually. Jim Sterling at one point on Podquisition talked about his time when he worked for both Destructoid and the Escapist, and how that, he liked the people there, but the site itself and the management was not good. And I think it was Conrad Zimmerman. I think he used to do some stuff for the Escapist too. and he left because the same reason, like they weren't paying him.
Extra credits left for that same reason.
Yep, extra credits is another big one that I really like and used to watch on the Escapist.
Yeah, going back to listen to him now, because I've not watched him in ages, how they do the autotune on his voice is a little grating.
Yeah. I kind of like it. I don't know. I'm subscribed to their YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I still am or not. It's just, they have a lot of good points. It's just, after not listening to it for a while, I go back and listen to it. It's like, oh, dear God.
Yeah. Did anybody else come from the Escapist that we're familiar with?
They had a lot of web artists for a while, doing different web comics. Hell, if you go to the Escapist, which if you do, that's actually probably the first time that they've had traffic in a while. They used to have a pretty full lineup of both video and text content. And now their weekly content schedule is all Yahtzee all the time.
Pretty much.
Pretty much it is. Because he runs their Twitch stream as well.
Yeah. I back in the day, I submitted a few articles and game reviews to the Escapist trying to pick up some freelance work.
Yeah,
I never had anything get through.
Yeah, I never attempted it. I considered it at one point, but just figured, no. And it seems like, didn't really miss that much there.
Yeah.
Which, the Escapist really went sort of the opposite way that Neogaf did, which it's kind of funny that both of these sites are having trouble on the same week. Because Escapist really kept themselves open to the Gamergate discussion, which is kind of where it pushed Neogaf further to the left. It pushed the Escapist further to the right of the political spectrum. Because they were able to have that open discussion. It attracted pretty much everyone, and the people that stuck around were on the more right-leaning side of things because they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I think that's a fair thing to say, right? Especially with how the internet is right now.
Yeah. Fair assessment.
And they just had issues paying their content creators to the point where, let's see, their news feed is all satire stuff. Which, honestly, well, let's put it this way. Click video games at the top. Their last articles is talking about the upcoming Hearthstone expansion.
Which came out, last month?
This article is dated May 16th.
Oh.
So it's not even the expansion you're thinking of. So
it's the last expansion.
Yeah, this is on Goro Crater, the Lich King. So yeah, that tells you how long they've been having issues, and they used to have some pretty decent articles, and they just suffered that talent drain where they just didn't want to pay their content creators. That, and they also had kind of the tendency to really kick anyone that was kind of dissenting after a while. And that's when I stopped frequenting the forums. Granted, I didn't really post all that much. It's just I was seeing, why did that guy get banned for that? Got one too many times.
Yeah, I didn't post a lot either. And I hadn't for several years, even when I submitted articles for them.
Yeah, and it's a shame to see news sites go down, but that a lot of this is their own fault, personally, in my opinion. They also were trying to bank on video content, but not want to do YouTube. So they relied on their own video player, which honestly
Their own video player was never garbage.
There was times that it thought I was running an ad blocker and would refuse to run, even though I turned it off for the site. And then they tried to push a premium service and would heavily push it if you had ad blocker off. So I turned it back on because I wasn't able to watch the damn videos anyway, right?
Yeah. Get the same annoying ad 1,000 times.
But that's pretty much anywhere on the internet these days. I can't tell you how many times just watching Twitch every so often, I see the same damn ad. Yeah, why is it people think that esports athletes work out before their tournaments. I mean, I realize the term athlete and working out makes sense, but they don't work out like that.
Right. No, they don't. I want the Escapist to survive, I think, but I'm not sure if it's probably just like the brief amount of attachment that I have for it.
Yeah, I guess we should read this one since we read the last one. To the Escapist community. As many of you have noticed by now, there's been not much of a staff interaction over the last few months. It's with regret that, to our knowledge, that most of the paid staff has been relieved of their duties. It sounds like he doesn't even know, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
This is, I believe, one of the community managers.
With the apparent exception of Yahtzee.
Yeah, with the apparent exception of Yahtzee. Maybe Yahtzee's just working for free and he really likes doing this.
Maybe he gets all the YouTube ad revenue.
That would explain a few things. The Escapist streaming staff, the InCan, for a few concentrated hours a month. We won't beat around the bush. This is a serious situation. We can't promise that the Escapist will last forever. It may have years left in it. It may disappear tomorrow. What we can say is that we'll do our utmost to keep the site running in orderly fashion for as long as it stays online. That said, nearly everything that it does is through volunteer efforts. With this sad news, though, there comes an opportunity. The moderation team has granted a number of powers to keep the site running. The community-run Escapist will be looking for your input on how the site operates and for volunteers in creating content. We may even look into adjusting the code of conduct, if that's possible, with the tools we've been given. Together, we can breathe life again into the site. One article at a time. It sounds like he doesn't even know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. I also don't know if it's a good idea to give a bunch of random people, like, extra power.
I'm gonna go with no.
Yeah.
A quick note, the old appeal system cannot be accessed for technical reasons. But new appeals can be directed towards an Escapist Gmail account, where they'll be dealt with an independent moderator who did not give the ban for the original infraction. This moderator will contact the appealing party to ask for their argument as to why they feel like it was not a breach of the rules, as well as the liaison moderator responsible for the infraction to ask them to explain the reasons before reaching a final I mean, this is all just going into trying to bring people back, to be perfectly honest. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like they're more clueless than we are, to be perfect, about what is going on. And that's not boding too well. Who owns the Escapist anyway?
I don't know. That's a good question. Are you looking that up?
Yeah. The Escapist magazine is owned by Defy Media. And let's see. They own Shmoosh, Shut Up Cartoons, Clever Media, Most Games, Teen.com.
All right.
Yeah, these are a lot of sites I've either never heard of or never wanted to go to. Oh, they own Break.com. Oh, and they own the Holy Taco. That's why they have all the taco news, I guess. Oh. I'm honestly expecting either to hear about the Escapist shutting down or being bought out by someone else at this point, because running on volunteer content, yes, it can work, but it needs to be set up for it. And it sounds like whoever this person is, because I don't know Jojo. And it looks like this is his first post. And I'm wanting to see if there's a creation date for this account. He's been a member since 2010, so yeah. I'm not expecting the site to stick around.
Me neither. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Very positive outlook from the two of us.
I'm going to go with realist.
Yeah.
And two sides of the opposite sides of the political coin. There's a certain balance in nature.
Yeah. About that. Okay. Ready to move on?
I think so.
Okie dokie. Our next news article, Wolfenstein 2 doesn't have multiplayer because it would dilute the storytelling.
Yeah, a bold statement.
Indeed. One I agree with in many cases. Especially given our current general development environment.
What, you don't want to have your story given out to you in loot boxes?
No, I do not. I want my story given out to me either just in chunks as I make progress, or in little bits as I make progress.
Okay, here you loot boxing.
Yay.
Oh, I just had a terrible thought and I'm going to share it. Next Elder Scrolls game, all the quests are given to you via loot box.
That sounds terrible. Anyways.
I'm successfully depressed you now.
Indeed.
Yeah, this is mostly... I'm not running an ad blocker on this. At least I don't think. Maybe I am. Hell if I know. I'm running Firefox right now. I haven't messed with Firefox in ages. This is mostly going into them wanting to spend more time on the single player story. And I have absolutely no problem with that. Tomb Raider has had a severe problem of focusing a lot of development time on their multiplayer side of things. And really not feeling like they've fully developed the game to the point where they could say that it's a Tomb Raider game. And we've seen that same thing happening time and time again. Hell, look at the Mass Effect series. It's focused so much on multiplayer now, right?
Yeah, it's like horde-based multiplayer. Although even in Andromeda, it's very much something that you don't have to do.
Yeah, but that's still a focus of the development team and a focus of balancing.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
And I'm just wondering if we're gonna see single player only stories slowly die off as multiplayer is the bigger cash cow. It's the more long-term cash cow.
I don't think so. Maybe amongst certain AAA developers.
AAA?
But AAA. But the developers in the AA and the indie scene, I feel like those are still thriving
the fact
markets
that you
for.
did that on the AA.
Did I really do it? Oh, okay. But you derailed me. I lost my train of thought.
You're welcome.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
As it goes from the AA to the single A indie side of things, I think indie games will be more or have more of a focus on single player stories, but mostly because an indie game running multiplayer only or a multiplayer focus is mostly a death sentence for that game.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they just don't have the marketing budget and the way to get it out there, so the game goes up, and maybe if they're lucky, they get a very small player base, like enough to
sustain it for a while.
Get things going. Yeah, but then once they move on, it goes back to zilch.
Yeah, I've got so many multiplayer-only indie games in my library that are either dead or, on life support that it is just sad to go through my library. There's several that I would love to go back and play again. It's just there's not... either the matchmaking's been taken offline completely and there's no LAN mode, so it can't even get around that, or, just other services that it used, like... indie games that are multiplayer only, I think is just such a trap that many developers fall into. And as as the AA and AAA areas, well, the rare AA focuses more on a multiplayer experience or games as service experience, which is, an even more damning term.
Yeah. That was last week. We talked about Visceral being shut down, and they were putting the Star Wars game that they were working on, the single player one, on indefinite hold.
Yeah, to just rework it. Essentially, they want it to be, whatever they could get the most money out of. And yes, I realize these are businesses. They have to make money. They're not in it for the art, or at least the major developers, the major publishers. But you still have to try to appease a customer base.
Right.
And outside of the whales, do people really feel that positively about loot boxes? Feel that positively about just having DLC after DLC after DLC?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, people seem to handle DLCs okay. I mean, there was a lot of controversy when they first became a thing, a decade
which
or
is
so
why
ago,
loot boxes scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, but loot boxes have received a kind of pushback that I don't think I've seen in any other of these developments whenever they happen. Like, when loot boxes first were introduced, there was some pushback, but this has just been overwhelming.
Especially as it goes into the more the single player side of things.
Yeah. But I mean, back to single player games do make money, and I mean, a Star Wars single player game would make a shit ton of money, but it won't make all of the money in their eyes. So they're sacrificing less, but still profits for a short-term gain that's probably, unless something, government intervention at this point or something, then in the end it's going to be more of a long-term loss for companies focusing on this stuff.
Yeah, they view it as, if they make it single player only with, just story DLC, no loot boxes, no cosmetic DLC, they view it as money left on the table.
Right.
And it makes no sense to them to leave something behind because, they need to make a profit. Especially as game development just pushes higher and higher budgets with higher and more absurd marketing campaigns. They have to make a lot more money back in order to fund it all. I'm really expecting the bubble to burst at some point, and it's going to be nasty. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I think we're going to see probably in the next year, unless something changes, most likely government intervention. But I think we're going to see crash might be too strong of a thing, but yeah, the bubble will burst, and I think we're going to see some of the AAA industry and even some other like indie and AA games that are using bad practices. We're going to see a lot of them drop off because that business model will become unsustainable.
I'm not sure if I'm going to...
And that might even happen with government regulation.
I'm not sure if I'm willing to say within a year. That seems like it's a little quick on the time frame. It really depends on just how absurd next year's major releases are.
Yeah.
That's going to be the main defining point. How bad the spring releases are and how bad the fall releases are. If they continue their course, then I would say 2 years. If not, then maybe we could plateau and avoid a burst. But I'm being optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I've seen in this last week, and I mean, I don't know anything about, or very little about sports games, but what was it, the one that has loot boxes? 2K18? NBA 2K18?
That has a bunch of virtual currency that you have to buy into to be able to do literally anything. Or just grind.
So there's been quite a bit of backlash from fans of the game this past week because of that, and they've stopped buying it and have bought a different basketball game, which is supposed to be inferior, but it doesn't have any of that stuff in it. So...
well, here's part of the problem is that some of these franchises are monopolized. if you want a Star Wars game, good fucking luck getting anything but EA because you are not getting it. Period. They have exclusivity for how long? Several years still?
Yeah, although Star Wars, Disney seems to be handing out the Star Wars license to an extra developer here or there that's not
Yeah,
EA.
but I'm not talking about, your Lego Star Wars or stuff like that. I'm talking about main story, hell, even canon, because wasn't the Visceral game supposed to be a canon story as well?
Yeah, I think so.
So on top of that, you're losing a canon story. Which, the Star Wars canon, once again, I'm looking at this as an outsider looking in, it has been pretty much gutted and they're rebuilding.
Okay.
Didn't they wipe out the entire Legends and only kept bits and pieces? So, there any canon story right now is just a complete restructure.
Yeah, they wiped out everything from old canon except for the movies, the Clone Wars animated series, and there was one other thing they kept as canon, and everything else got kicked out as Legends.
So, I've seen a lot of people say that, why don't they just redo Knights of the Old Republic as a HD re-release in the meantime while they rework this? I'm not sure if I wanted them to touch Knights of the Old Republic at this point. Could you imagine a modern redo of that?
Yeah, no. Although it's now backwards compatible on Xbox One, so if you happen to have your old KOTOR disc and an Xbox One, there you go. I downloaded it to my phone the other day to play the mobile port. I own it.
Yeah, I think I have it through Amazon when they were still doing the free stuff.
Yep. That's where I got my copy from as well.
Never really played it though.
Yeah, not on mobile.
Well, I've only played, I would say, less than a third of the way through. It's not that it's tough. It's just a little hard to get into if you're not a huge Star Wars fan. And I like Star Wars, but I'm not sure if I could call myself a fan.
Right. I'm a big Star Wars guy, as we have learned throughout various recordings.
Yeah, we're way off topic from Wolfenstein.
We are. I'm mostly just glad to see a game that's like, hey, fuck all that shit. We're just going to be single player.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. And I'm going to support Wolfenstein. And as long as, obviously I'm going to wait for reviews to come out. And as long as the game isn't a big turd, which based on what I've heard from people who've played early versions of the game say it's not.
Yeah, a little side note. It seems like Bethesda's actually sending out early review copies again. It looks like they learned their fucking lesson.
Maybe. I'm not willing to say that they have yet, but there is perhaps a chance that they have.
Yeah, if only they could learn lesson on other things. That's why I'm hesitant to even consider Wolfenstein, is because it's attached to Bethesda.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Are we went way off in left field, so are we ready to move on?
I think so.
Okie dokie. Over 3 times as many video game projects fail than succeed on Kickstarter.
Yeah, this is an interesting little topic I found on GameIndustry.biz. Talking about Kickstarter and, the projects that fail. And there's some notable projects that's failed. Hell, the Yogscast teams is probably the most famous of them. Oh, but where do we even start with this?
I don't know. It's an interesting little article, but I don't know how much we can really say about it. I think it's interesting that board games are doing much better than video games. But I think that board
games are just a lot easier to do.
I was going to say, I think it comes down to the scope of the project. Board games are much simpler to create. And from a term, not to say that, creating board games is, easy or whatever, but just, you design the look, you come up with the rules and your theme, and then you just get it produced. When it comes to making a video game, you have to do coding and art, creating art assets and more coding and bug fixing, and you don't have to do a lot of those things with board games. So...
Well, this is also
I think
talking
that has something to do with
not
it.
just critical reviews, but also just how many are getting funded compared to not.
Yeah.
But
Well,
for
I
video
think
games,
people
I
have-
think the big factor of this is video games are fucking expensive to the point that even developers way, way, way underestimate the amount that it costs to make a video game, even a crappy little mobile game. Unless you're buying literally all your assets and just throwing it together, which at that point you get what you pay for.
Right.
And there's another factor in this is that they rely, I think, too much on the culture of stretch goals, where they set their initial milestone low to try to get as many people in as possible, because there's a certain bandwagon effect on Kickstarter that I've noticed, where I won't get on this because it's only barely going to make its goal. It's not going to hit any of the stretch goals. It's not going to hit any of the cool content. So why bother? I've seen that a fair amount. And I think that may be a contributing factor to why not many Kickstarters either get funded on the video game side of things, is that they set their goal too high and don't get that bandwagon effect. They don't get the press because a lot of sites have actually cut down on the amount that they've covered Kickstarter in the last couple years. And also, the ones that do meet their goals, that set it low enough, they may fail because they set it too low and were expecting more people to jump on and run out of money and either just shove out the project or delay, and have mighty number 9.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when we were talking about this before the show, we were like, we don't know how much we have to say. I think that we've, covered everything. I mean, it's an interesting little discussion to have, and it's neat to look at, but yeah, there's not a ton there. Kind of what you see is what you get with this one.
Well, I think that's also maybe another contributing factor, is that sometimes things that look cool don't turn out too well. And I would say, use this as a segue to talking about the Ouya, but that didn't look cool.
I wanted an Ouya. I never bought one because I realized that they were mostly garbage, but I wanted one.
It just seemed kind of pointless.
Yeah, I almost bought one. They were on sale for $30 at Target one time.
Okay, that may have been worth it.
I almost bought it, but at the time I didn't have any money. I was poor. Well, not that I'm not poor now, but I was poorer.
P-O-U-R.
I have some spending money now. Then I didn't have any, so it's like, well, I want this, but I don't have any money to buy it, so I guess I'll just move on. And the next time I went by, it was gone. Spooky, disappearing.
The disappearing console that nobody asked for, nobody wanted. Woo! The ghost of Kickstarter passed.
Now let's just get Patrick Stewart in here and put him in a bathrobe.
Yeah, but you just want Patrick Stewart in there with a bathrobe.
Maybe. What of it?
I would have thought you would have been more of an Ian McGregor guy.
Yes.
You don't care. All right.
I don't care. I'll take them all.
Oh, my.
All right. Moving on, then. Destiny's 2 population tracker is gone because it was used to, in quotes, spread a false narrative.
Yeah, which is kind of bullshit. Based on everything that I've been able to find. Okay, so first of all, this is not Bungie's own tools. This is a third-party API that was looking at the player numbers. I'm not sure how they're doing it. But, yeah, they were showing some player drops, and to the point where there were some articles being published about just how console players were dropping Destiny. And this combined with the reports that Destiny 2 doesn't have a lot of content on launch, which no idea if that's true or not, but it's technically an MMO, so they tend to release with less content and add more in time. So it kind of fits the model, right?
right?
Well, articles such as Call of Duty's player drop-offs lasted 6 times longer than Destiny 2's. Calls them to pull the daily population tracker, because that doesn't make it seem like you're covering up anything, does it?
No. What it makes it seem like is that Bungie was like, hey, your thing is making our game look like people don't want to play.
Well, are you sharing my tinfoil?
80 kajillion hours
because
a week.
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that maybe they were contacted by Bungie.
Yeah, I was thinking they definitely were. I mean, games require so much hype nowadays because budgets are so bloated, particularly marketing budgets. So they go after this thing that's making them look not super great and be like, hey, stop it. Or, we'll do whatever. Or hell, they might have bribed him. Who knows? We might find out later. But as of right now, we don't know.
Yeah, which honestly, how is it reporting a false narrative if there's a significant downward trend? I mean, granted, on launch, there's obviously going to be your peak time. That's going to be your peak until you have your first major patch. But seeing some of the charts of people that people are talking about, it's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll link you this one, Jared. This is one of the ones that they were talking about. That's the Call of Duty one, and let's see if there's if I can find the Destiny one on this. And here's it can't even link to the Destiny tracker now because it wasn't a copy and it wasn't a screenshot. It's just linked to the Destiny tracker, and it's gone.
Right. Well, there you go. I mean, looking at these graphs, though, this seems pretty normal for most games.
No, that's just that is literally just the Call of Duty one.
Oh, okay.
With a huge drop off when the next Call of Duty came out. You could see the overlap, and they were showing a faster drop off with Destiny 2, but because there's a screenshot of that, well, can't corroborate that, unfortunately. But the fact that they're cutting the tracker because of this. Yeah. That seems that smells fishier than a fish market.
Well, fish markets are pretty fishy, so. But yeah, I mean, Destiny 1 you could get through pretty quickly, like the story and.
Well, I never played Destiny 1. I had absolutely no interest playing a first-person shooter with a controller.
Right. It's
Granted, I know console FPS has a ludicrous amount of aim assist, but at that point, why even bother playing, right?
Yeah. Still waiting to see how it does on PC. It's about to release on PC, I think.
The servers are live now, so let's check the player tracker. Oh, wait. It'd be hilarious if the tracker suddenly comes back online when there's a huge spike. Anytime that any player tracker or player count gets pulled, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah, I agree.
Hell, when Blizzard stopped reporting their player numbers, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah. Yep, they just don't want people to know that things aren't going as well as they like to pretend they are.
Yeah, the only time that I would support pulling a player tracker is whenever they have to start using scientific notation. But I haven't seen that one done yet.
No, me neither.
Now I'm wondering if there's going to be some game out there that tries to list their player count in scientific notation. 1 to the power of 3.
Yeah.
Make it seem like a lot bigger population than there actually is.
Indeed. That population grow.
Okie
dokie.
Anything else here? Other than
I don't think so.
Wrapping our heads in tinfoil?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said it, though, because I was feeling like I was being a little crazy on that assumption, because
Yeah, no, I felt that way from the beginning, and I actually went back and reread the article to make sure that they didn't say it, because I felt it so strongly. I was like, surely I read that in there, and I just like accidentally skipped over it.
I went to make sure that this was a site that was run by Bungie. This was a third party. And cheers.
Yeah, I'm banging stuff against my coffee cup by accident. Pouring some water. Don't know if you hear the pour or not. Yep. Exactly right. My water doesn't have very much.
It's not very rich. It's not Avion. Oh.
Yep, just shaking my head. I know you can't see it, that's why I'm calling it out.
Yeah,
just kind of shaking my head.
Speaking of calling it out, yeah, we could do that with an emoticon.
Yep, Twitch adds loot boxes for temporary emotes.
Yeah, now Twitch has had loot boxes for a while.
I did not know that they'd had loot boxes for a while.
Yeah, it's tied into their store system. Buying a game through Twitch, and yes, you could actually buy a game through Twitch and buy it through a streamer's site to give a revenue share, which, that doesn't have a huge conflict of interest because, some of these streamers are being paid to stream. Well, if you bought through their site, you also got a Twitch loot box, which gives you a permanent emoticon or badge or some other nonsense as a little bit of an extra, which, okay, dumb as hell, but fine. It's an extra. Now they're doing it for donations. Are we really at this point?
It would appear so.
Okay, wow. Oh, let's dive into this pile of shit. They have a set of temporary, and I highlight the term temporary here, versions of their most popular global emoticons, and yes, I am refusing to call them emojis for the time being, where if you cheer more than 250 bits at a time, you get a Halloween loot crate that contains one of 6 temporary zombie emoticons.
Didn't it say if you collected them all, you got to keep them?
Yes, but that's at least 6 times to get the full set, and there's a chance to get the same one more than once. Or you just buy in for just shy of $65 and get the permanent one permanently. Yeah, the permanent one permanently.
Permanent.
Yeah.
Lee.
No, actually, it's Kappa.
Ayo. Anyway.
It's just, why? Maybe I'm old, but this seems like bullshit.
Maybe I'm old. Yeah. It is, but they see I assume they see an opportunity to make money, and they're going to try and take it.
Yeah, they've been pushing heavily the bit system, which is, borrowed from porn sites, or at least in the West. In the East, it's on more streaming sites, but on the West, it's porn. Where you buy
the internet is for porn. Porn.
Thank you, Avenue Q.
Describe your dick and double click the internet is for porn.
Also known as Internet for you.
I'm standing up right now to help me stay awake and alert, and I just did a little dance.
Well, I'm glad we can't see that.
I'm still doing my little dance.
Oh no, he's doing the forbidden dance.
Story time. So when I was an undergrad,
oh, no.
I went to a conservative Christian college for reasons that unfortunately were out of my control.
Where every dance is the forbidden dance.
And dancing was forbidden, but they had a dance class you could take to learn the basics of ballet and swing dancing and some other stuff.
Wait a minute.
But they didn't. Well, no. Here's how they logicked around that, or logic loopholed around that. They didn't call it dancing. They called it stage movement because you were doing movements on a stage.
What?
Yep. I took that class. Actually, because I wanted to learn how to dance, and it was really shitty, and I didn't learn how to dance.
Well, you wouldn't learn how to dance in a stage movement class.
No. No, we made jokes about that all the time. Even like the conservative Christian kids were like, were we going to move some stages today instead of dancing?
Remember, lift with your legs.
Nope, you definitely want to lift everything with your back. Just throw your back right out. It'll be good for you. Anyways,
we're completely off topic, but that's hardly.
Sorry for derailing with a fun story.
And there's even more bullshit to this. It's not just cheer 250 bits, which is I think about $3.50 to get the loot crate, which that's pretty expensive for a loot crate to begin with. On top of that, you can only get one per your donation. So if you cheer 500, you get one.
How much money is 250 bits?
It's, your first 500 bits is, hang on, I literally just saw it here. Hang on, let's go to the bit site and see. Let's see, 500 bits, the first time around is $3.50. You get a 50% discount, but normally it's $7.
So 500 bits is $7?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would mean that it would be
$3.50.
$3.50
for a loot crate.
That's a little expensive for loot crates. Normally a loot crate is like 99 cents or $1 something.
Yeah, but if you cheer with 5,000 in one go, you get the permanent unlock immediately and one loot crate for the temporary, which is $64.40.
People will do it too.
Who the hell are these people? Because the VGL podcast could use a sponsor, and we could use someone that is, willing to pay that much for absolutely nothing.
Yep, absolutely. Please come find us. Patreon.com/VGL podcast. We would love your support.
We'll commission Kyle to draw you an emoji.
Yeah, and then we'll mail it to you. We'll mail the Post-it notes to you.
On the finest of Post-it notes.
Yeah, I mean, people with more disposable income. Also, for something like this, it would be considered like a collector's item. So people would probably be more willing to spend money for it so they could have the collectible.
Yeah, which on top of that, this feels so exploitative.
Indeed.
I mean, hell, in order to, assuming that you get your non-temper or your temporary ones without any duplicates, which they say there's a small chance, which I'm calling bullshit. I'm saying that it's probably the same roll.
Probably.
That's still $15. And that's doing the bare minimum, assuming that you're buying these in 500 bit things. Because, so this is where we are.
This is where we are.
And the fun part is that there's no way to buy $15 worth of bits. And that's the other insidious things about this, is that it goes $1.40 for 100, then it jumps up to 500 for $7. So even if you want to get one of the temporary ones just to be kind of funny in chat or anything, you're still putting down $7. Then it jumps up to just under $20 for 15. So that's, if you get no duplicates, you get, there you go.
Yep, your odds of that happening would be very low.
Yeah, it just seems so insidious. I mean, if you get one duplicate, that $20 range is gone. And you're having to put in another 7. And kids will do that.
Kids will do that. Plenty of adults will do that too.
I really think that building on this well mentality is, we are at a tipping point, and when the whales are gone, it's going to end up like Star Trek, and that that giant cylinder's going to show up.
It's going to show up to fuck up the Earth. Oh, that was this week's Jimquisition. He talked about
which I've been thinking.
Which
I've been thinking about the same thing.
There's a service. He talked about one of the things he talked about was
scientific revenue.
Yeah, and variable rate pricing.
Which, if that was going on in a game and I knew about it, I would be pissed.
I would be too.
Who the hell thinks that's a good idea?
Companies who want more money and are willing to sell things at cheaper prices and some things at higher prices.
Here's the thing. All right. If you're selling things at varying amounts depending on how much people are willing to put in, and once they find out about it, you're not selling a fucking thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's a short-term game for a long-term loss.
Yep. Capitalism, ho!
I need to go back and play an Item Shop Tale.
That would be unrestricted capitalism. Capitalism when properly reined in with government oversight. Well, just any oversight in general. And regulation.
Ho?
Not quite so bad, yeah, ho. And ho. Lots of ho.
Can't have hoes because government regulation.
In some parts of the world you can. Hell, even in what's that one county in Las Vegas? Or not in Las Vegas, in Nevada.
Probably Las Vegas.
No, it's not whatever county. I don't think it's whatever county. It's where the bunny ranch is. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder how much they had to pay Playboy to get away from that.
A lot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, poor Hugh Hefner.
I don't think I'm going to come up with another loot box themed title for this episode, though.
No, because we have other things to do. Like Community Corner?
Indeed. Let's head on over to Community Corner. Were there any tweets this week?
Just Kim is talking about all his podcasts, and he was going to send us in a list, but I never saw that.
I didn't either. I checked right before we started recording, so unless it just came in, we don't have it.
Yeah, he was talking about an itemized list.
He does have a lot of podcasts, though, so it might take him a while.
Yeah, prepare your butts. Well, Jared's butt is always prepared, so.
Got the lube on standby. Anyways, yeah, we were talking, it's been several weeks ago now, though, about podcasts, and he has a lot. I thought I had a bunch of podcasts. But no, he has like 3 times the amount of podcasts that I have. But that is beside the point. So, did you say whether or not we had tweets?
That was the only tweet.
Okay. Then let's do our user question, which
is kind of combining 2 of these because they are pretty much the same thing, only reworded. What do you think are some of the best game devs? And you guys talk about shit game devs all the time. What are some good ones to look out for? That's right. Pretty much the same thing, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I think it's functionally the same question.
Close enough for government work.
Yeah, because what we do is government work.
Well, I just got back from the golf course.
Oh, God. I had to adjust my mic and sit back down so I can pull my list up. I've said this before, I wish I had a standing desk or one of those desks that you could move, like change its position. Because while we're recording, I can't bend over to use my keyboard and mouse. So I have to sit back down.
Oh yeah, sit down.
Anyways, we each put together a list. Mine has 4, yours has 5.
Yep.
We both cheated and each threw in a publisher as opposed to a developer.
Well, I kind of jumped in with a publisher after you put in a publisher.
All right, so I cheated and then inspired cheating.
It's fine. I'm cheating.
Do you want to alternate or
sure.
do you want to do your whole? Okay.
I started off. My first knee-jerk reaction was Clay, the developer behind Don't Starve, Shank, Invisible Ink, Mark and the Ninja. Don't Starve Together, Don't Starve. Shipwrecked, is it now? They have a lot of games out there, and probably one of the better open world survival games out there. And their whole thing is they have a lot of different art styles. Their games are rarely the same unless you get into the whole Don't Starve cluster that they have going on, and along with Oxygen Not Included, that's sort of the same art style as well. But even if you don't particularly care for the game, it's still arguably good. I didn't really care that much for Invisible Ink, but I still enjoyed my time with it. It was still a fairly good game. Don't Starve, I'm not huge into the open world survival games, but I still enjoyed playing Don't Starve. They are very gameplay structurally sound, which sounds kind of like a backhanded compliment, but for some of these genres that they work in, it's kind of a rarity. And they also focus a lot on how visually rich their games are. Hell, just look at Mark of the Ninja. I mean, that is a very impressive looking stealth game.
Yeah. Agree.
All right, all you.
Okie dokie. My first one, and this was the first one that popped into my head, was Firaxis Games, which is primarily known for the Civilization series, but they also do the XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and then XCOM 2. They do have some problems. They're not perfect. They do have, particularly with the more modern Civ games, issues with DLC. Like the game will basically be broken on release, and then you'll need the first DLC or maybe the first two to get everything fixed and have like a proper full-blown.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you want to
experience?
Take a shot at Clay to, is there anything that you don't like about them and kind of play, counterpoint with each of our developers?
I don't know enough about Clay and their games to really be able to do that. I'm only familiar with Don't Starve, really. Some other games I've heard about from listening to other podcasts or whatever. I was just
offering that as a suggestion.
No, that's fair. I mean, if you have something that's a negative,
well,
feel free to go ahead.
You already covered was the DLC practices that they kind of handle.
Right, but even though they do have that issue, particularly mostly with the Civ series, the XCOM games also not perfect, but their initial releases had tons of content, and the DLC wasn't required for the game to really feel complete. They don't do things like, at least now, I hate that I have to preface that, but they don't do microtransactions, they don't do loot boxes.
Yeah, we're such a shitty situation where we have to preface things like that.
Yeah, especially for the XCOM series, their DLC feels a lot more like old school expansion content. War of the Chosen for XCOM 2 is practically a different game. So they have, at least for the most part, their DLCs are big, full fleshed out things. And even if they're not quite big enough to be called expansions in certain games, they still offer a lot of content as opposed to Horse Armor.
Giddy up, Buttercup.
Firaxis is a good one. They're definitely the biggest developer on my list. They're the closest thing I have to a AAA. But Civ is still and XCOM both are still fairly niche games, despite the fact that in their niche they're super popular, top of the game. But anyways, your next one?
My next one is CD Projekt Red for the Witcher series. And, pretty much all the Witcher games, because there is an adventure game that's not part of the main series, but it's still fairly good.
And then Gwent.
Yeah, Gwent is coming out, which is still in the Witcher kind of franchise. The Witcher series started off a lot, pretty rough. But over the course of the 3 games, I admit I haven't played the third one. I've only played the first 2 so far. I've been wanting to dive back into them to be able to get to the third one, because yes, you can dive into the third one, but that doesn't seem hardly right to me. Especially with it being an overarching story. At least I think it is. I've tried to avoid story spoilers as much as I can, so I'm not 100% certain there. But most likely. They've refined and polished a lot of their gameplay design to the point that Witcher 3 is hailed as one of the better open world RPGs out there. Period.
Yeah.
Which, with how crazy the open world genre has gotten in the last few years, is extremely high praise. Probably the elephant in the room is all the rumors about CD Projekt's Red management and how they treat their developers themselves, which honestly have no idea how to feel about that, if it's even true.
Right. Fair enough.
But overall, I think they're a good company to look out for game-wise.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with CD Projekt Red. Anything that I want to get onto, that wouldn't be considered just like nitpicking.
Yeah, all of their games aren't perfect, but I honestly am of the opinion that there's no such thing as a perfect game, or at least that I've ever played.
No, I agree with you. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect game.
My view of things is, if you don't have a criticism, you haven't tried hard enough. But then again, I'm a hard-ass critic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my next one is Egosoft, the developers of the X series.
I already know what my criticism is here.
Well, while there were a lot of issues with Rebirth, they did go in after listening to the audience and make a whole bunch of changes to fix a lot of the problems with it. And they say that they've taken all of that criticism on board for X4. And they're keeping sort of the best stuff from Rebirth that fans actually liked, and then getting rid of a bunch of the stuff that they didn't. So hopefully that's good. But I mean, the X series is just a solid series. They've just been plugging away at that thing for, God, a decade and a half now.
Yeah, it's
give or take.
It's a very, very old series. I don't think it's the oldest of the first-person spaceship sims. That's surprisingly hard to say, but it's probably up there.
Yeah, and they do DLC, but all of their DLC is much closer to expansion level.
And it's all standalone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The only one that needs something else installed is Albion Prelude. But otherwise, it's basically like you get the game with each DLC.
Yeah,
so what's your criticism?
My criticism is how they handled Rebirth. Yeah, the initial launch of it. And also, it is a very, very small niche developer.
Yeah, it is super niche.
This is pretty much the closest you could get to hardcore space sci-fi sim.
Yeah.
Sci-fi space sim.
But
speak while I do not.
But if it's what you like, they are the best in the business. At least in my opinion. So, okay, what else you got?
Supergiant Games. Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre. Extremely good visuals on all these games. Granted, we didn't really care for Transistor, and 2 of the 3 are Game Club games, so you could go back and listen to both of us just talk on length about 2 of these. And the games are not for everyone, obviously. That's going to be the big thing here, especially Transistor. It is a big departure from what Bastion was, in both a good and a bad way. And I'm not sure how Pyre pans out. I know that the combat in it is almost sports game-esque, which is strange, but I want to reserve judgment until I actually get around to playing it. But not a lot to really talk about here, because we've talked for ages about 2 of these.
Yeah, I feel like every criticism that we've had about those games is in the Game Club episode.
Yeah,
so.
And most of them are either just small technical things. The games, at least Transistor and Bastion are short. Single afternoon games, easily.
Right.
And that's probably the other major criticism, beyond some oddball storytelling, is that they're just short, but they are beautiful. And oh damn, the music in those games. Even if you don't like the story and don't like the narrator, which if you don't like the narrator, it's hard to take you seriously. Unless he just annoys you with all his talking. Goes, oh, that voice. The music is just absolutely beautiful in the 2 of the 3 I played.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my next one is Little Green Men Games. They do the Starpoint Gemini series, which I have talked quite well about for ever since we started the podcast. The first one's a little bit rough, but it was their very first game ever, and they learned immensely from that experience and have seriously improved the series going forward. They're just a solid indie level approaching AA studio at this point, who just make solid games. They've got great community and mod support. They're a modern developer that is all about mods to extend the longevity of their games, and they have a strong set of tools that they provide to people. Probably the biggest issue I have with them is they're a developer that likes to release into early access very, very early on, which can leave the game feeling quite stale and boring until it gets much farther in development. But they've done it with 2 games so far. Starpoint Gemini 2 and Warlords both released into early access like a year to 18 months ahead of when they released. And they did eventually come out to full release and had expansion level size DLC for both games. Warlords just had its newest DLC drop. I haven't played it yet. I've been meaning to go back and play it.
I haven't played a lot of Starpoint Gemini 2. I've been meaning to go back and try it. I got review code of it actually.
Yeah,
I was having a little bit of technical issues, but that just be that it was in early access at the time.
Yeah, they've developed their own proprietary engine for each game. So good developer all around. I don't really have any major complaints. Aside from the early access thing is frustrating.
Noticing a theme with your stuff.
Nope. I noticed the theme too.
Oh, good. It's not just me.
Not just you.
Listener, have you noticed the theme?
I will say I had a few other ones that I considered that in my opinion, good developers, but I was like, well, they only have one game that they've done.
Whenever I was making my list, my criteria were active developers, so that killed off a few.
Yep.
More than one game out, because there was several that I would have put on there. Hell, I would have put RimWorld's dev on there otherwise.
Yeah.
And they haven't pissed me off. Kind of a no-brainer on that one.
Yeah, the good dev criteria. Yeah, my criteria were exactly the same.
We're in sync because we didn't talk about that.
We are. No, we did not talk about that, but those were my exact criteria. Active developer, more than one
and
game.
And it actually made me a little sad
also
because
good.
A couple of the devs I thought about were either closed or had done some rather shitty things. Hell, several years ago, Blizzard would have been on this list.
Yeah, for me, a couple of years ago, Bethesda would have been on the list. But not anymore.
Yeah, well, maybe in time they could turn it around, but I'm not holding my breath for Bethesda.
Yeah.
I hate to say that one. But how about another developer that I appreciate?
All right, go for
Runic
it.
Games for the Torchlight series. This is the first Torchlight was kind of rough. It wasn't a bad game, but I had a bit of a disagreement with how they handled the content of the game, where it was essentially a tower, and you slowly work your way down a mine into various themed areas, and it got very tiresome. For Torchlight 2, they made it a more a series of dungeons, of smaller dungeons. It was the same general content, but they listened to their community on what they needed to do to make it feel a lot more cohesive. And it worked out very well. It's a very solid entry-level ARPG. I haven't played their latest offering yet, Hob, but I do intend to at some point. It's a 3D platformer.
Okay.
But overall, the Torchlight series has been very good, and I'm hoping that they do another one. I do know that they're talking about doing a mobile Torchlight, which has me taking pause, but I'll at least give it a shot. I mean, it can't be worse than some of the ARPGs I played on mobile. Ugh.
Nope, probably not.
As long as it doesn't play its fucking self.
A lot of mobile games
Because
too.
we have Jared for playing with itself.
Hey-o. All right. Well, the last one on my list is the one where I cheated and went for publisher as opposed to
I think you got
developer.
confused about the whole developer thing.
What do you mean? Got confused?
Or did you know that they were a publisher when you put them on the list?
No, I knew they were a publisher.
Because they are actually the publisher of Torchlight.
Perfect World Entertainment?
Or at least, I think the console version of Torchlight. I know that they're listed as a publisher for Torchlight, but I'm not sure where.
I see. No, I was trying to think of, well, I knew that the same company owned Star Trek Online and Dungeons & Dragons Neverwinter and Gigantic, and I didn't know if it was a developer or a publisher, because I know that they'd all been, well, Gigantic was fairly new, but Neverwinter and Star Trek Online I knew had been developed separately several years ago and brought under this umbrella. And I just got to looking at some of Perfect World's other games and realized I'd played a couple of their other games, and they have several, so I don't know if this applies all the way across the board, but they're all free-to-play games. And as far as free-to-play games go, they receive high levels of support. They have relatively fair free-to-play business models. I haven't checked in recently, so hopefully I'm not shooting myself in the foot and they haven't gone full crazy loot box or whatever. But they have a lot of user-generated content, particularly Star Trek Online and Neverwinter. Neverwinter has a dungeon master mode where you can create dungeons and quests and things that all players can use. And then they brought that system over to Star Trek Online. I think they called it something like episode creation or something like that, which it's the same premise.
Yeah, there was some of the more popular stuff was just loot farms, but there was a few story stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Star Trek in particular had a lot of really fun episodes that people created. Some crazy stuff with Q in particular that I remember playing. So, I mean, if you wanted to just do Star Trek, play episodes of Star Trek, the user created content was where to go. So
they made it so.
They did make it so. So just a lot of really good free to play games that have pretty fair business models. So there you go.
Yes, and my last one, since you decided to cheat on a publisher, I did as well with Devolver Digital. They are a publisher of a lot of strange niche things. Now, they have the bird dating simulator, Hot Hero Boyfriend. They have Enter the Gungeon, the Shadow Warriors series, Hotline Miami, Broforce. They have 134 games on Steam. Well, that's including DLC, but yeah, they do fairly well overall. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to find something that you like. And that's what I really like about them, is that they're willing to take risks and do things that are a little off the wall. Granted, whenever they do their E3 conference, it's not something I particularly cared for, but I think they were already saying what I was thinking there.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't Devolver Digital gone back multiple times to Kickstarter?
Yeah, I think so.
And
other
services?
That's the downside of it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like about them, is that even though they're a successful company, that they have repeatedly gone back to Kickstarter after their initial project.
Starting to get in vogue as well. Studio Larian it's done that with Divinity Original Sin 2. And the only reason why I didn't put them on the list was that, Divinity Original Sin, we've had some interesting times with bugs in that game.
Yeah, I considered that too, but I marked it off the list because of how, not broken, but how janky Divinity can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just clicking through Devolver Digital. Hell, they have XSplit on here as publishes Devolver Digital on Steam.
Wait, XSplit?
Yes.
As in,
that XSplit.
The recording software that I use? Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, XSplit Premium is on Steam as well. And Rated mostly negative. That's probably the least rated thing on here. Mostly because I don't think people want to buy a subscription. Can't blame them there.
XSplit. I'm now on their website, or XSplit's site.
Well, it's listed as Devolver Digital and Steam. Maybe they handle the Steam side of things. I don't know. But they have quite the assortment of things.
Good to know.
And plus, they have odd games. I think that's what I really appreciate about them, is that they're willing to take risks, because, the gaming industry could get so fucking stale.
Yeah. Content and creative partners, Devolver Digital. They're the first one listed.
Oh, and there you go. Knowing is half the battle.
I mean, they've got a lot of partners, but I guess maybe Devolver's their biggest one, or just negotiated.
To just handle the Steam side of things?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, to be perfectly honest.
Because they're also partnered up with Capcom, AsiaSoft, Tespa, Elephant, what was that? Beast something. Beast of the East.
Mm-hmm.
Or 10-0 LLC.
I wonder, I would make a Warframe joke, but I would doubt that's them.
Yeah, it's not. But, alright, is that for all of our...
I think so. So if you were to send in a community question, which we're actually running a little low since we combined two of those, you can send them to us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, or just tweet them, VGL on the Twitter.
Awesome.
Possum?
So, awesome possum. Neato burrito. Cool beans.
What? That's the third game in the series.
That means it's time for me to close a bunch of tabs.
Hit the music, and I immediately get a game.
There you go.
I've been seeing this game all over the fucking place on Twitter. Opus Maximum. This is a programming puzzle game where you're creating a machine to make different chemical compounds. This is from the developer of Space Kim, actually. I didn't realize that they had another game coming out. This is on the wish list and something I want to pick up at some point, because Space Kim is one of my favorite puzzle games. It's a very niche title. It requires a lot of tinkering, but if it's anything like Space Kim, which what Twitter has suggested it is, it has a lot of room for varying solutions to different puzzles and a lot of tinkering to streamline your designs if you wish to do so. It looks absolutely gorgeous and absolutely confusing as well. I'm sure it's one of those things that it looks like a hot mess if you haven't played it, but it makes a lot of sense otherwise, because Space Kim was the same way.
Right. Well, I'm still looking for a game.
And I got my second game on my second pull. Gold Rush, the game. Essentially, the History Channel Gold Rush, or Mining for Gold TV show, the game, which could be either really good or really bad. It has mixed reviews right now, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. But it has a huge potential of being a just kind of goof off game, you know? Sort of like how Euro Truck is.
Sorry, can you repeat that last sentence? You broke up for just a
second. It has
a
good potential of being a really good goof off game like Euro Truck. That's why they're suggesting it along with Spin Tires.
I got you. Okay. Well, so far I haven't seen anything. Oh, there's boobies. Never mind. What is this? Knights of Azure 2, Bride of the New Moon. This looks like a JRPG with boobies. I'm in.
And you're putting on the list?
Yep, it's from Koei Tecmo. I'm bringing a link over.
Yeah, well, I got my third game already. This is a good discovery queue for me.
Yeah, apparently so. I mean, literally, I just, like what I said is the game.
Well, I still want to see the boobies.
Looking game with with boobies.
Come on, activate the link.
Well, there's your link.
Well, you haven't activated the link. There we go. Yeah, those are boobies. I've confirmed boobies.
Definitely boobies.
That is one impractical outfit.
Where the breasts are exposed for our pleasure.
It seems like
there's
something going on with their page, because if I try to click on the last screenshots, it cycles all the way back to the front.
Oh.
But wow, that is a lot of underboob in that outfit as well.
Almost as good as side boob, but I'll still take it.
Well, moving along to my game, Party Hard Tycoon. This is published by Tiny Build, which probably should have been on my list as well. They have some interesting titles. It's a tycoon game based on the Party Hard game, which I didn't really care for Party Hard, mostly because its stealth didn't make a lot of sense. But I have a soft spot for tycoon games. And if this could be handled well, which right now it's not rated all that well, it could do well, but it's in early access, so I would say give it a wait and see how things go. Unless you're really hard up for a tycoon game where you're running a nightclub. Which there's not a lot of those, actually.
Yes.
It's an interesting niche.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, I got another one. Blackberry Honey. This is a visual novel. Let me just read you the short splash description. A lesbian love story set in Victorian England, featuring maids, music, and finding love in unexpected places. I'm in.
Oh, you.
Oh, me. Nope.
We have another one. Unfortunately, no boobies for you. So you've lost all interest already.
Well, poo.
No, none of that either. It's called War Banners. It's a turn-based strategy RPG. It has a feel of sort of an old school... it almost looks tabletop-ish, where they have so many units on the screen.
Yeah. I've seen this game before.
It's rated whiskey positive, at least. I'm not sure how it works out, but it doesn't look too bad overall.
I didn't. Yep, that's the rest of my queue.
And I got another one right away. I got all the good games. Warhammer 2, Vermintide 2. Essentially, take Left 4 Dead, but put it in the Warhammer universe, the fantasy version of it. With all the rats in the world, and try to survive. I mean, that's pretty much it. The first one had some issues with the amount of content it had, and I don't think that there was a competitive mode. The versus mode from the original Left 4 Dead, I should say, from Left 4 Dead. It's inspiration, essentially. But it's still worth a look if you're looking for something to scratch at Left 4 Dead like itch, and you're a fan of the Warhammer genre. I still have 4 games to go through.
Damn. I mean, I guess I'll just sit here. I'm not gonna start another queue. I got 2 games.
Start masturbating?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, who am I kidding? You never stopped. Oh dear God, that's horrible. They don't even have a logo for this game.
There you go. Anonymous the game.
Oh, that's even worse.
What?
It looks like an It looks like... I'm trying to think of... It looks like a slightly higher def version of EverQuest, only with a sci-fi theme.
Okay.
It doesn't look good.
Like sci-fi?
It doesn't look good. It says currently in alpha builds. And it has a $20 buy-in. No. On second thought, looking at my last game, I'd much rather play it than this.
Alright. That's very low praise.
Well, zombie survival Minecraft. And it has pretty much completely all negative reviews.
Well, that's very sad.
Yeah. And we're done here. Well, that was the Discovery Queue. I got 5 games.
There you go. I had two.
And orders you stored in the world.
Indeed. Alrighty, well that means we come to the part of the podcast where I go
and
first.
I go hit the elevator while you chatter away.
Indeed. If you want to find me on the YouTubes, which is where all of my videos and things are, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. Like I said, I had a hectic weekend with my in-laws here and doing house projects, so no recording was done. You're just continuing to see the backlog of all the videos I had already rendered and uploaded, and that will continue this week. It's getting pretty close to the end, it's just a few more, so hopefully I get some more recording done before those catch up. But if not, then I hope you enjoy those, and there will be more recordings later next week, most likely. More new recordings, I should say. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so by going to @JMA4707. I tweet about all kinds of things. And if you if you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. I stream games most Friday nights. Occasionally, I can't because of things, but most Fridays. Also, if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can do so by sending a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests. So far, everyone has been nice and lovely and cool. So hopefully, you keep it that way.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is dumpster fire.
Fair enough.
Dumpster fire. And I had good timing coming back.
Yes, you did.
A little too much water and a little too much Kool-Aid, I guess. But hey, it worked out. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting week for me because I'm still in the middle of the choosing for the replacement of Dark Cloud 2 because Google decided, no, you're not doing emulation without us being the ever-living hell of your channel. And my views are still hugely down because of it. And RimWorld broke. So I have 2 series offline now. And I'm debating on what I'm going to do with RimWorld because as I was recording the last episode of The Bitter End, a little appropriate of a title there, I guess, with how it ended. I mean, I could have continued, but I had too many things broken. I guess I either modded too much or, I just had bad luck. I think I just had bad luck, to be perfectly honest, with something going wrong. Something saved incorrectly. Or I just had a file corrupt somewhere. But as I was recording that, the announcement of Alpha 18 for RimWorld was put out, and the beta version of that. So I'm tempted to hold and set up for RimWorld 18 in probably about a month. And I'm very tempted to do that just because my RimWorld series tend to last for a while. What do you think? Besides thinking it's very important.
I think that you should always wear your seatbelt and be sure to drink your Ovaltine. No, I think it would be alright to wait. I assume that's what you're asking. Yeah. What do I think? I think it'd be alright to wait.
I'm kind of spitballing the idea because it will take me at least a week to reset because I could have, if my mod set didn't break or, something go wrong, I could have done a quick turnaround and had new videos out by Thursday. Just take the extra episode off and do my next generation and go on. But with things breaking, I want to tear down completely and rebuild from scratch and do a full retesting, which is about 10 hours worth of gameplay. I had the break at the 20-hour mark to give you an idea, or actually 26-hour mark. So I tested, but obviously not enough, or I just had things go odd. In order to get set back up, it's going to be at least a week, most likely 2. Odds are next alpha's in 4. So I'm tempted to just take the extra time off, focus on getting the choosing done, get my next series up and running, have Google beat the ever-living hell out of my channel again because obviously I chose the wrong thing. I'm getting a little frustrated with YouTube. Have you noticed that?
I have. I've heard some behind the scenes
Maybe
stuff.
I should just go to Twitch, just put all the random bullshit on the screen. Because they don't seem to care about copyright. Hell, it seems like every single Twitch stream I go to, there's some sort of, obviously licensed music playing. Have you noticed that as well?
Indeed, I have.
Boy, I bet Rio would just have a field day on if they could get a hold of Twitch. But at least Divinity's still going for now, so we still got that going for us, which is nice.
Indeed.
And the Sunday Sampler should hopefully be okay this week. Next week, I got a real treat for you. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the Sunday Sampler. It's going to be the Monday Sampler again because of embargo. And this is, of course, assuming that I don't have any sort of recording issues, because that's bit me in the ass as well. And the Sunday Sampler is always the most volatile in my series. Well, actually, it kind of tied with Divinity Original Sin nowadays, isn't it? Just
sure.
Because somebody has a life.
Yeah.
But if you want to see whatever the hell eventually turns up on my YouTube channel, you can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine, right? Just assuming Google hasn't shut me down. Or you can see me tweet somewhat randomly about who knows what. I was tweeting about how RimWorld is getting closer and closer to Dwarf Fortress because it's getting the combat log now. And it's getting some of the more fun mental breaks. Let's put it this way. There's a chance now that somebody could mental break and go dig up a corpse and throw it in the meeting hall. Because, they don't care, right?
Nah.
Or probably my favorite,
no need to care.
My favorite of the new mental breaks is targeted insults. They follow a random colonist around and just start constantly insulting them. Oh, it's going to be fun in the Dwarf Fortress sense of the word. And when RimWorld returns, you can find it on Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Hopefully. Assuming it doesn't break again. Or Gaming with CR on the Twitter. So, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Once again, if you wish to email us with your viewer questions or emails or voicemails or, well, you probably shouldn't shove a carrier pigeon into the internet because who knows what that would turn up with. You can email us vglpodcast@gmail.com or you just tweet us vglpodcast on Twitter. If you wish to help pay for this absolute madness, you could contact us VGL on patreon.com. Patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. I've talked too much.
That's fine. We're right here at the end.
Bye-bye. Oh, wait. Don't forget the website, vglpodcast.podbean.com. And you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and who knows where else. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his music at incompetech.com, as well as our Discovery Queue music, Doobly-Doo.
And as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.